Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes Ms. Wagner.
I thank the chairman. I thank the ambassador for being here and for his service. Today, more than 2 years after the Biden administration's shameful, tragic, and utterly misguided flight from Afghanistan, it has become clear that the president was determined to abandon the country at any cost and with no conditions. The cost in lost military assets and our credibility as a friend and ally and global leader, and most of all, in precious American lives, was incalculable. Again and again, the administration proved that it was willing to simply cede Afghanistan to the Taliban, irrespective of the Taliban's clear intent to ignore all commitments and agreements. The responsibility for the absolute debacle in Afghanistan rests on this administration's shoulders, period. And there must be accountability. There has been no accountability for the administration's total failure to protect U.S. troops and citizens. Ambassador Khalilzad, did countries in NATO argue against a full U.S. troop withdrawal?
They did.
They did.
Subject to a political agreement, as I mentioned to the chairman.
How did Russia and China respond to the Taliban takeover?
I don't know for sure, but it seems to me that they would have preferred a political settlement. They stated at least that they would have preferred a political settlement. I was always suspicious of their motivations. Sometimes they would want a political settlement, but they knew that there is no easy path to a political settlement. They also would have liked to have kept us in Afghanistan in a difficult situation, doing what they wanted us to do in part, which is to get the terrorists that were focused on them eliminated by us and paying a price without winning. So we had to be careful in terms of
Ambassador,
Russian and
I know that this was touched on
Chinese
before,
activities.
but
Yes.
Afghanistan,
I could talk some more if we were in a different setting about their policies, but this is what I can say in this setting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's more concerning to me that NATO was against a full troop withdrawal.
Right.
Afghanistan, and this was touched on, is now ranked worst of 177 countries in terms of the status of women, according to the Peace Research Institute of Oslo. Did you believe the Taliban would respect women's rights and allow girls to go to school?
I did not trust them. They did make statements on record, video statements, that they would allow girls to go to school, all the way to not only college, but to PhD. This is on the record that they have made, but
they didn't do it.
They have not lived up to it.
You didn't do it, they didn't do it, and you didn't trust them.
Right.
Why didn't U.S. negotiators press the Taliban to extend the withdrawal date beyond August 31 to facilitate the evacuation?
That was, of course, the president's decision not to yet ask for 4 months, as I mentioned before, but that was his decision not to ask for an additional extension.
President Biden's.
President Biden, yes.
Taliban issued threats to attack U.S. troops if they stayed longer than the August 31 deadline. Ambassador, did you consider this to be the actions of a responsible partner of peace?
Well, that consideration that if an additional extension was asked for, it wasn't asked. But if an additional extension was asked for, perhaps it could lead to this restart of the fight. And that's why perhaps the decision was made not to ask for more time.
Well, they threatened our U.S. troops
Right.
if they stayed 1 day longer
Right.
than August 31. What was your assessment throughout 2021 of whether the Taliban was meeting the conditions of the Doha Agreement? How about in April of 2021?
Well, it always was my personal judgment that to get the Taliban to do what they have agreed to do, we have to respond with our commitments in a way that incentivizes them to do what they have committed to do, meaning that we wouldn't do what we have committed to unless they do what they have committed to doing. That was my point of view, and that was my advice.
My time has ended here, and I yield back. Thank you.
Delay yields.